Hey, I'm John Cannell, and today on Preppy Kitchen we're making some easy, amazing Oreo cupcakes. So let's get started. First off, set your oven to 350 so it's nice and hot, and now we want to chop about 1 cup of Oreos. These cupcakes are so tender and buttery, and they'll be studded throughout with Oreos, both in the batter and the frosting. Chop these into smallish pieces. I think that's about 9 Oreos. Set this aside, and now we're gonna grab a big bowl and measure out our dry ingredients. Into a large bowl over a scale, I'm adding 2 cups or 240 grams of all-purpose flour. There are 2 main things that can go wrong when you make cupcakes. 1, you add too much flour in because you scooped it up, which packs the flour in and makes them really bready and dense. But the other thing is over mixing the batter. This recipe is special. It's a reverse crumb method or a reverse creaming method, and it is gonna give you foolproof results. Just wait and see. 1 cup of granulated sugar, that's 200 grams. To puff things up, I'm using a 1/4 teaspoon of baking soda, as well as 1.5 teaspoons of baking powder. And for some contrast, 1/2 teaspoon of salt. And now we're gonna give this a nice mix. If you wanted to, you could sift this out, but really that's not necessary. Although I find sifting to be quite satisfying, so I wouldn't fault you for it. Set that aside. Separate. Where will I put my egg yolks? they need a place to live. Oh, thank you. That's so sweet of you. Okay. Now, into a medium bowl, I'm adding 3 egg whites. And if you're wondering what's up with that, it's only because we want these to be a pale kind of cream color. So I'm not using the yolks, just so you see a nice contrast between the light colored cupcake and those dark chocolate Oreos. If you get a little bit of shell in your egg whites, get rid of that. Set these aside. You could use this to make some French buttercream, a flan, any kind of custardy delicious thing would be great. Or extra rich eggs in the morning. For some lovely flavor, I'm adding a teaspoon of vanilla extract. And you're thinking, John, you just separated the yolks out so this would be light. Now you're adding a really dark vanilla? And the answer is yes, I am. I will make the trade-off for this. It could be a little bit darker and that much more delicious. 1/2 cup of milk, 120 mils. And for some extra tang, body, and tenderness, I'm gonna add 1/2 cup of sour cream. If you wanted, you could use yogurt as well. It's like plain Greek yogurt. The sour cream does a couple of things. It'll make your cupcakes so moist, a little bit dense in a really pleasurable way, kind of dissolving on your mouth. And the acid in them is gonna react with the baking soda to puff them up, and it's gonna make them more tender. All these things happening just from sour cream. With my wet ingredients in, it's time to give this a nice whisk. Lovely. Set this aside now and either grab a big bowl and a hand mixer or your stand mixer fitted with a paddle attachment. In the bowl of my stand mixer or your large bowl, I'm gonna add 170 grams or 3/4 of a cup of room temperature unsalted butter. This is so nice and soft. I can use my finger and press down with very little effort. I can bend it. It's very nice and soft. Plop that in. Normally in a recipe, you'd be adding in some sugar right now and creaming that up, but the sugar is already in with the flour. We're gonna cream our butter now just to give it a head start, and then we'll add the flour in. My butter is super creamy, so it really didn't need a mix, but mix I did nonetheless, and now it's all creamed up. I'm gonna add my dry ingredients right now, and this is the magical foolproof part of the recipe. This is the reverse creaming method, and basically we are going to mix the butter in with the flour and sugar. The flour will be completely coated in fat from the butter, and because of that, when we finally add our wet ingredients in, I don't have to worry about the gluten activating in the flour because the flour's been coated with fat. I'm gonna mix this up for a minute or 2. I will scrape the bowl down in just a second, and you're looking for this to be kind of like a wet sand consistency. The butter has broken up into little pieces all throughout. Because it's such a nice consistency, it mixes really fast. Scrape the bowl down and continue mixing until it's crumbly throughout. Okay, just a little bit of mixing later, I want you to see this texture. It's so beautiful and crumbly throughout. It looks just like kind of a crumbly pastry dough almost. Now we're gonna add the wet mixture in and beat it in until it's combined or almost combined. You'll be doing some more mixing later on, so don't worry if there's a few streaks here and there. Mixing on low, add it in. Get all of that out there. One, so you don't waste, and two, because milk is horrible for your septic system. All right, scrape your bowl down, just to make sure nothing's amiss. Add your 1 cup of chopped Oreos in. And now we're just going to fold this together just until it's distributed. You don't want to overmix because the batter will look kind of muddy. Add your paper liners into your cupcake tin. This should make 12 cupcakes. Using a triggered ice cream scoop, let's divide the batter evenly. This is the first time in maybe 12 or so videos that I've actually gotten a dozen cupcakes. For some reason, I always get 11. I think I overfill. But today, that wasn't the case. My Oreo cupcakes are ready to go into the oven, 350 for 15 to 20 minutes, or until they're puffed up, the edges are just golden, and the centers are set. In the meantime, we're gonna make our frosting. In you go. While my cupcakes are baking, I'm making a really easy, enchanting Oreo buttercream. The first step is to get some crushed Oreos. So you can give these a fine chop, or you can crush them in a bag if you want with a rolling pin. The amount of Oreos is totally up to you. I like to use about like 1.25 cups, which is 120 grams. You can definitely use a rolling pin to get some nice and crushed too. My chocolate sandwich cookies, or Oreos, are all crushed up. So now we're gonna grab 3 sticks or 1.5 cups of unsalted butter. It's at room temperature and you can press gently, it'll indent really well. Setting this aside, 1.5 cups, 342 grams softened butter. Plop that in. We're gonna beat the butter on medium to medium high until it is light and fluffy. Pump a lot of air into this and you're gonna see the color of the butter really change. Could be about 5 minutes of mixing. Or you can skip that and just cream it. It'll be a delicious buttercream, just less light and fluffy. Now we're gonna add in about 4 cups of powdered sugar. It's totally up to you if you wanna add a little bit more or a little bit less. The buttercream will hold up either way. Mix on low, and it's time to add in a teaspoon of vanilla. And while it's mixing, I'm drizzling in 1/4 cup of cold heavy whipping cream. I'm gonna let this mix up on medium or medium low for just a couple minutes so it's nice and fluffed up. Scrape the bowl down once, and then it's time to add the Oreos. Add those Oreos in, and I'm saving a few tablespoons for crumbling on top at the end of this. Mix on low for just like 3 seconds. 1, 1,000, 2, 1,000, 3, 1,000. There we go. The rest we can do by hand. Do not overmix, just scrape the bowl down and fold once or twice. These cupcakes will be delicious any way you decorate them, but I want to show you just a couple ways. One with a round tip in a piping bag. Just start in the middle, work your way out to the side, and end up with a beautiful little cone and a sprinkling of crumbs. Really simple and easy, but it looks gorgeous. You could also just use a big triggered ice cream scoop, plop that frosting right on top, give it another sprinkle of crumbs, and I gotta tell you, that looks pretty good too, and it's so easy. This is so soft, it's like butter. Ooh. Grab the bottom, tear it off, look at that inside, smash it on top, and you have the perfect Oreo cupcake sandwich. It melts in your mouth. It's wild, oh my gosh. I hope you get a chance to make this recipe, and if you like these videos, hit that subscribe button and check out my cupcake playlist.